You ever feel that quiet sting? The one that hits when you realize how much of your life has been shaped, bent, or outright crushed by something you can't touch, something invisible yet heavy as a chain around your ribs? That's exactly what washed over me the moment I flipped the postcard and saw the place it came from. A world that looked impossibly gentle, almost too soft to be real. And a single sentence beneath the image that made my heart stop mid-beat. Here, no one owns anything, because nothing needs to be owned. It shouldn't have hit me so hard. But maybe it will hit you too, because deep down, you know the truth. We all do. We know how many choices we made, not because they felt right, but because they were affordable. We know the opportunities that slipped from our fingers, not because we lacked talent or drive, but because we lacked the numbers in a bank account. We know the nights we stayed awake asking how much longer we could keep pretending everything was fine. And suddenly this flimsy postcard was whispering a question I'd never dared ask. What if life didn't have to be this way? What if there was a world where value wasn't measured, weighed, tallied, or owed? What if you woke up tomorrow and the pressure that's been pressing into your chest since you were old enough to understand what expensive means simply wasn't real? I should have laughed. Instead, I felt a pull, a heat behind the ribs, like something inside me recognized this place long before I did. And when the air around me shifted, when the room thickened and the edges of my vision flickered, I knew the postcard wasn't just showing me something. It was taking me there. The first breath I took in that world didn't feel like inhaling air. It felt like dropping a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying since childhood. The ground beneath my feet felt warm, like it had been kissed by sunlight for hours. Yet somehow the temperature around me was cool enough to soothe the tension in my shoulders. I stood on a wide, open street, shaped like a winding ribbon of pale stone. No billboards, no advertisements, no shops trying to pull you in. Yet everything looked abundant. People weren't rushing, weren't glancing over their shoulders, weren't clinging to bags or wallets. They walked like the ground itself supported them without question. A woman approached, her eyes bright with the kind of rest I hadn't seen on a stranger's face in years. She handed me a cup of something warm and fragrant. I tried to ask how much it cost, but she laughed softly, not mocking, more like someone hearing a word from an extinct language. "We don't trade here," she said. "We share." Her words shouldn't have made my stomach twist the way they did, but somewhere inside me, a lifetime of transactions cracked like thin ice. I want to pause here, not to break the story, but to ask you something. What would you do, genuinely, if tomorrow nobody asked you to pay for your existence? Think about that for a second. Say it in the comments, because your answer might be the one someone else needed permission to say out loud. As I walked deeper into the city, something strange happened. The pressure in my mind, the one that always kept a running tally of, "Can I afford this?" just faded. For the first time in years, my steps weren't pulled forward by fear or pushed by necessity. I moved simply because I wanted to. Food was prepared in open spaces, not sold, but offered. Clothing hung on lines for anyone who needed warmth or style. Homes stood unlocked, not because no one feared theft, but because no one thought like that. When no one owned anything, nothing could be taken. When nothing could be taken, nothing could be lost. The most surreal moment came when I visited what looked like a massive circular hall where people were gathered, talking in soft, excited tones. It reminded me of a marketplace, yet there was nothing for sale, only ideas being traded, stories being shared, skills being taught. A child handed me a small carved object shaped like a spiral. When I tried returning it, she shook her head. "Keep it, or don't. It's yours, or it's everyone's. It doesn't matter." I laughed without meaning to. Not because it was funny, because my mind didn't know how else to process something so gentle. And yet, there was a tension in the air. Not fear, not danger. Something else. Curiosity pressed against my thoughts. How does a world like this survive? What stops chaos? What stops greed? The answer found me before I found it. An older man with white-streaked hair approached and asked if I was the visitor from the measured world. I didn't know how to respond, but he gestured for me to follow. We walked until the city opened into a valley filled with shimmering structures that looked alive, like they were grown, not built. "There was a time," he said, "before this peace. A time when some people tried to take more than they needed. They tried to introduce ownership, to store resources, to demand others work for them. I felt my breath tighten. What happened? His eyes softened, but there was a shadow there. We didn't punish them. We didn't exile them. We simply taught them something they had forgotten. That survival is not an individual achievement. His tone carried weight, but not violence. He didn't say eliminated, but something told me some beliefs had been slowly, gently, completely removed from their society. Quietly, like water wearing down stone. As I listened, something stirred in my chest. A sadness I didn't expect. Because I realized something painful. In my world, the people who dream like this are often the first to be crushed. I spent hours there, learning, watching, absorbing. And somewhere in the middle of a conversation with a group of teenagers, kids who spoke about passions instead of salaries, futures instead of fears, I felt something spark inside me. A small, warm pulse of hope. Before I returned home, the same child who'd given me the spiral pressed a second object into my hand. A postcard. Blank on one side, shimmering on the other. "For when your world forgets what matters," she whispered. "So you can remind them." When the world blurred around me again, I didn't resist. I came back with that postcard still in my hand. And now I'm here telling you. Not because I expect you to believe every detail, but because if even a small part of you felt that spark, if even a fragment of your chest felt lighter, then maybe that S where change begins. So answer this. What part of that world would you bring into ours if you could? Tell me in the comments. Your voice matters more than you think. Your support keeps these journeys alive, and you might inspire the next one.